Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving into a true story that'll leave you speechless. Names and details have been changed to protect their privacy. What would you do if your mother-in-law cornered you with an unthinkable demand? I'm talking about a moment that shattered my world. Picture this. I'm standing in my kitchen, hands trembling, as my mother-in-law, Evelyn, stares me down with cold, calculating eyes. She didn't just ask me to help her son's failing business. She demanded I sell my body to do it. Yeah, you heard that right. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it'd burst. How did I end up here? A daughter-in-law, trapped in a nightmare I never saw coming. This isn't just about money or family drama. It's about betrayal, power, and a fight for my soul. Stick with me, because the truth is wilder than you can imagine. I married Tom 3 years ago, thinking we'd build a life together. He was charming, ambitious, with dreams of running his own construction company. I loved his drive, even when the late nights and stress started piling up. We weren't rich, but we had each other. Or so I thought. Evelyn, his mother, always hovered. She'd drop by unannounced, her sharp tongue slicing through my confidence. "You're not cooking that right," she'd say. "Or Tom deserves better." I brushed it off, chalking it up to her being overprotective, but I didn't know the half of it. Tom's business was bleeding money, and Evelyn blamed me. She said I wasn't supportive enough, that I didn't contribute. I worked part-time as a receptionist, kept the house spotless, and still found time to cheer Tom on. But to Evelyn, it was never enough. That night, in the kitchen, everything changed. Tom was out, probably drowning his stress at some bar. Evelyn showed up, her face like stone. She didn't waste time. "The business is dying," she said, voice low. "Tom's too weak to fix it. But you can—" I frowned, confused. Then she laid it out. Clients, rich men willing to pay for company. My stomach dropped. She wasn't asking me to get a second job or sell cupcakes. She wanted me to prostitute myself to save her precious son's dream. I laughed at first, thinking it was a sick joke. But her eyes didn't waver. "You owe this family?" she hissed. "Or you'll lose everything, Tom. Your home, your future." My throat tightened. Was she serious? Could she really force me into this? I stood there and frozen, as she kept talking. She had it all planned out, where I'd go, who I'd meet, how much they'd pay. Each word felt like a slap. I wanted to scream, to throw her out, but fear glued my feet to the floor. What if Tom knew? What if he agreed? My mind raced, replaying every fight, every late night he spent avoiding me. Was this why Evelyn felt so bold? Did she think I was weak? Disposable? I wasn't raised to back down. But this wasn't a fair fight. This was a woman who'd do anything to control her son's life, even destroy mine. The worst part, she made it sound noble. "You're saving him," she said, like I'd be some hero. But I saw the truth in her eyes. Greed, not love. She didn't care about me or even Tom. Not really. This was about her legacy, her pride. I felt sick, trapped in a house that suddenly felt like a cage. Could I say no? Would she ruin me? If I did, I didn't know yet. But one thing was clear. Evelyn underestimated me. She thought I'd crumble, but I wasn't going down without a fight. What would you do, staring into the face of someone who sees you as a pawn? Let's find out what happened next. Evelyn's words hung in the air like poison. But I couldn't shake them. I stood in that kitchen long after she left, staring at the sink, dishes piled up from another night of Tom's absence. How did we get here? My marriage wasn't perfect, but I never thought it'd lead to this, a mother-in-law plotting to sell me like some commodity. To understand why I didn't just walk out that night, you need to know the mess I was already in. My life with Tom was a tightrope, and I'd been balancing on it for years, unaware how close I was to falling when I met Tom. He was a dreamer. We'd stay up late, planning our future, a cozy house, maybe kids someday. His construction company was just starting, and I believed in him. I took a low-paying receptionist job to help cover bills while he chased contracts. But dreams don't pay rent. By our second year, the business was drowning. Tom changed, snapping over small things, staying out late, coming home reeking of whiskey. I'd ask what was wrong, and he'd shut me out. You wouldn't understand. He'd say, like I was too dumb to get it. I kept trying, cooking his favorite meals, leaving notes to cheer him up. But the distance grew. Money was the real problem. Bills stacked up, mortgage, utilities, loans for equipment. Tom swore would turn things around. We fought constantly. I'd beg him to cut back, maybe take a side job. He'd yell, "I'm doing this for us," but it felt like he was doing it for himself. Or worse, for Evelyn. She was always in the background, whispering in his ear, pushing him to be a man. She'd call me lazy for not working full-time, ignoring how I stretched every dollar to keep us afloat. I started to resent her, but I never imagined she'd stoop this low. Tom's failures weren't just financial. They broke us. He stopped touching me, stopped talking to me. I'd lie awake, wondering if he still loved me. Was I not enough? I poured everything into this marriage, and it was crumbling. Evelyn saw it too. She'd drop by, eyeing our sparse furniture, muttering about how Tom deserved better. I hated her smugness, but I swallowed it, thinking I could fix things. That's why her demand hit so hard. She didn't just exploit our money problems. She weaponized my loyalty to Tom. I started questioning everything. Did Tom know about her plan? He was so dependent on her, always running to Mom when things got tough. I remembered a fight where he said, "Maybe you should do more for the family." Did he mean this? My stomach churned at the thought. I felt alone, trapped in a marriage that was more obligation than love. But leaving wasn't simple. We had no savings, and I had nowhere to go. My parents were gone, and my friends were scattered. Evelyn knew that. She saw my vulnerability and pounced. What would you do? Stuck in a marriage that's falling apart, with a mother-in-law who thinks you're expendable. I wanted to confront Tom, to scream at Evelyn, but fear stopped me. If I pushed back, would I lose everything? The house, the life I'd built, flawed as it was. I didn't have answers, but I knew I couldn't let Evelyn win. Not yet. I had to play smart, figure out what she was really after. Was this just about money, or something darker I was about to find out? And it would change everything. Evelyn's demand wasn't a one-time outburst. It was a calculated plan, and she wasn't backing down. Days after that kitchen showdown, she started tightening the screws. I'd catch her watching me, her lips curled in a knowing smirk, like she held all the cards. My hands shook every time the phone rang, dreading her voice on the other end. I wanted to believe it was a bluff, some twisted test. But Evelyn was dead serious. She had a scheme. And I was the centerpiece? How do you even process that? Your mother-in-law plotting to pimp you out while your husband's too checked out to notice. She called me one morning. Voice sharp as a blade. Meet me at the diner on 5th. Noon. Don't make me wait. No explanation. Just an order. I thought about ignoring her, but the fear of what she'd do next pushed me out the door. The diner was grimy. Booths sticky, air thick with grease. Evelyn sat in the back, sipping coffee, looking like she owned the place. I slid into the seat across from her, heart hammering. She didn't waste time. I've got a client, she said, sliding a folded paper across the table. Tomorrow night. You'll meet him at the Regent Hotel. I stared at the paper, my throat dry. A name, a time, a room number. It was real. She leaned in, eyes glinting. He's discreet, pays well. You do this. We clear half the business debt in one go. I wanted to laugh, to scream, but all I managed was a weak, "You're insane." She didn't flinch. Insane? I'm saving my son. You're the one letting him fail. Her words cut deep, twisting my love for Tom into a weapon. She made it sound like my refusal would ruin him, like I was selfish for having a shred of dignity. She kept talking, laying out the details like she was planning a grocery run. The client was some big-shot investor, someone Tom had pitched to before. Evelyn had met him through business contacts, and somehow, this sick deal was born. He's not rough, she said. Like, that made it okay. Just do what he wants, and we all win. My stomach churned. I pushed the paper back, shaking my head. I'm not a whore. Her face hardened. You're whatever this family needs you to be? Or you're out. No Tom. No home. Nothing. The threat landed like a punch. She knew I had nowhere to go. No money to start over. I left the diner in a daze, the paper burning a hole in my pocket. I hadn't taken it willingly. She'd slipped it into my bag when I wasn't looking. Back home, I locked myself in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. Who was I anymore? The woman who loved Tom, who dreamed of a better life, felt like a ghost. Evelyn's manipulation was relentless. She called again that night, then the next morning, each time piling on guilt. Tom's drinking again. She'd say, "You want him to lose everything?" She painted me as the villain, and part of me started to believe her. What would you do? Cornered by someone who knows exactly how to break you? I couldn't tell Tom, not yet. What if he sided with her? The thought made me sick. But I had to protect myself. I started recording her calls, saving texts. Anything to prove what she was doing. Evelyn thought she had me trapped. But I wasn't ready to give in. She'd underestimated how far I'd go to fight back. The question was, how long could I hold out before she forced my hand? Evelyn's plan was closing in. A noose tightening around my neck. That paper with the client's details stayed crumpled in my purse. A constant reminder of the line she wanted me to cross. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My mind stuck on her cold voice. You're whatever this family needs you to be. I wanted to burn the paper, to run. But where Tom was barely home, and Evelyn's threats echoed, lose him, lose everything. I was trapped, but I wasn't broken. Not yet. I had to resist, quietly, carefully, while she thought I was caving. I started small. I ignored her calls, letting them go to voicemail. Each message was sharper, her patience thinning. Don't test me, she'd hiss. You're not the only one who can play dirty. I saved everyone, building a secret file on my phone. Texts. To her demands. The client's name, the hotel. If this blew up, I'd need proof. But proof for what I didn't know yet. Confronting her felt like poking a snake. And telling Tom was a gamble I wasn't ready for. What if he believed her over me? The thought made my chest ache. I started digging into Evelyn's world. She wasn't just Tom's overbearing mom. She had connections. I remembered her bragging about friends in high places at a family dinner, investors and local bigwigs. Was this client one of them? I snooped through Tom's old business files when he was out, looking for names, deals, anything that linked to her scheme. I found a contract with the client's name, Robert Vance, some real estate tycoon. He'd invested in Tom's company early on, but pulled out when profits tanked. Now, Evelyn was offering me to win him back. It made me sick. But it also gave me leverage. If Vance was this important, maybe I could use that. I played along just enough to keep Evelyn off my back. I'd nod when she called, mumble vague promises about thinking it over. She bought it. Or at least she didn't push harder. But the deadline loomed tomorrow night. At the Regent Hotel. I had to stall. I called in sick to work, claiming a stomach bug, and spent the day planning. I looked up legal aid online, wondering if I could get a restraining order or report her for coercion. But I had no money for a lawyer, and the police. They'd laugh me out of the station without hard evidence. Still, I wrote everything down. Dates, times, what she said. It felt like armor, even if it was flimsy. The hardest part was facing Tom. He'd stumble home late, eyes glassy, and I'd search his face for clues. Did he know? Was he part of this? I tested him once, casually, mentioning Evelyn's crazy ideas to save the business. He just grunted. She's always got some scheme. No hint of guilt. But no reassurance either. I felt so alone. Hiding this from the one person who should have had my back. What would you do? Carrying a secret this heavy. With no one to trust, I wanted to scream, to shake him awake. But I couldn't risk it. Not yet. By that night, I had a plan. Not a great one, but something. I'd show up at the hotel, but not for Vance. I'd confront Evelyn there, record her, get her to admit what she was doing. It was risky, maybe stupid, but I was done being a pawn. She thought I was weak, a desperate wife she could mold. She was wrong. I was scared. Sure. But I was also angry. And that anger was starting to burn brighter than my fear. The night of the hotel meeting came, and my stomach was a knot of dread. I stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back, pale, eyes hollow, clutching a cheap purse with a phone set to record. My plan was shaky get to the Regent Hotel, confront Evelyn, catch her admitting her scheme on tape. But as I slipped on my coat, doubt clawed at me. What if she wasn't there? What if Vance, the client, was waiting instead? I pushed the thought down. I had to do this. Evelyn thought she'd broken me, but I was still standing. Barely. The Regent was fancier than anywhere I'd ever been. Marble floors, chandeliers, the kind of place that screamed money. I felt out of place, my sneakers squeaking as I crossed the lobby. Evelyn had texted me earlier, room 412. Don't be late. No mention of her being there, which set my nerves on edge. I rode the elevator, heart pounding, rehearsing what I'd say. If she was there, I'd demand she stop. If it was Vance, I didn't know. Run. Maybe? The doors opened, and I stepped into a quiet hallway. The weight of every step crushing me. Room 412 loomed ahead. I knocked. Phone recording in my pocket. No answer. I knocked again. Louder, my pulse racing. The door cracked open, and there he was. Robert Vance, not Evelyn. My stomach dropped. He was older, maybe 60, in a crisp suit. His smile slick as oil. "You must be Lisa," he said, using the fake name Evelyn gave him. I froze, every instinct screaming to bolt, but I forced myself to nod, stepping just inside the door. I needed evidence, and running now would get me nothing. He gestured to a chair, casual, like this was a business meeting. Evelyn said, "You're accommodating," he said, his eyes scanning me. I swallowed bile, keeping my voice steady. "Where's Evelyn?" I asked. He shrugged. "She doesn't need to be here. We have an arrangement." My skin crawled. Arrangement? The word made it sound so clean. But this was anything but. I glanced around. No Evelyn. Just a bottle of wine on the table. 2 glasses. My plan was crumbling. I had to pivot fast. I sat, keeping the door in sight, and asked, "What exactly did Evelyn promise you?" My phone was still recording, catching every word. Vance leaned back, smirking. "She said you'd help settle some debts. Her son's business, my investment mutual benefits." He paused, eyeing me. "You're prettier than I expected." I wanted to scream, but I kept my cool. "And if I say no?" His smile faded. "Evelyn won't like that. Neither will your husband." The threat hit hard. Tom's name in his mouth felt like a betrayal. Even if he didn't know, I was in, over my head, my courage fraying. Vance stood, stepping closer, and panic surged. "I need to use the bathroom," I blurted, grabbing my purse. He nodded, pointing to a door. "Inside." I locked it, hands shaking as I checked my phone. 5 minutes of audio, enough to prove what was happening. But now, what I couldn't stay. But leaving meant facing Vance again. What would you do, trapped in a room with a man who thinks he owns you? I splashed water on my face, steeling myself. I had to get out. But not before making sure Evelyn paid for this. I opened the door, ready to make an excuse. But Vance was on the phone, his voice low. "She's here. Evelyn, handle it." My blood ran cold. Evelyn was coming. This was my chance and my nightmare. I had to stay and confront them both, or run while I still could. I stood in that hotel bathroom, heart slamming against my ribs, the muffled sound of Vance's voice seeping through the door. He was talking to Evelyn, and she was on her way. My phone, still recording, felt like a lifeline. But it wasn't enough. I'd come to catch Evelyn. But now I was stuck in a room with a man who thought I was for sale. And my mother-in-law was about to make it worse. I had to get out, but not before facing Tom. He was the missing piece. Did he know about this? Was he complicit, or just another pawn in Evelyn's game? I couldn't keep hiding this from him. It was time to confront my husband. No matter how much it hurt, I slipped out of the bathroom, forcing a tight smile as Vance hung up. "Evelyn's coming," he said, like it was no big deal. I nodded, muttering something about needing air, and bolted for the door before he could stop me. The hallway felt like freedom, but my legs shook as I hit the elevator. I didn't care about Vance anymore. My fight was with my family. Tom was at home, probably clueless, and I needed answers. The drive back was a blur, my mind racing with what I'd say. How do you ask your husband if he's okay with his mother selling you? Tom's was on the couch when I walked in, beer in hand, staring at the TV. The sight of him, so normal, so detached, made my blood boil. I dropped my purse and stood in front of him, hands trembling. "We need to talk," I said, voice sharper than I meant. He barely looked up. "What now?" That indifference broke something in me. I didn't ease into it. "Your mother tried to force me into prostitution to save your business." The words hung there, raw and ugly. He froze, beer halfway to his mouth, then laughed a short, bitter sound. "That's insane." She wouldn't. I didn't back down. I pulled out my phone, played the recording of Vance talking about Evelyn's arrangement. Tom's face changed, the laugh dying in his throat. He set the beer down, hands shaking. This can't be real." But I wasn't done. I told him everything: Evelyn's kitchen ultimatum, the diner meeting, the client's name, the hotel. Each detail hit him like a punch. He stood, pacing, muttering, "No, no." She wouldn't. But the truth was sinking in. I saw it in his eyes, shock, then guilt. "Did you know I demanded—" He stopped, looking at me like I'd slapped him. No, God, no. I'd never, part of me wanted to believe him, but doubt not. "You let her control everything," I said. "You let her tear us apart?" He flinched, but didn't argue. For the first time, I saw how weak he was, how Evelyn's grip had shaped him. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "She said she'd fix the business," he mumbled. I didn't ask how. That was the worst part. His ignorance wasn't innocence. He'd let Evelyn run wild, and I'd paid the price. What would you do? Facing a husband who failed you so completely, I wanted to scream, to leave. But I needed him to step up. Tom looked up, eyes red. "I'll talk to her. This stops now." But I wasn't sure I trusted him to fix it. Evelyn had her claws deep, and Tom had never stood up to her before. I felt the weight of our fractured marriage, the lies and silences that brought us here. But I also felt a spark of resolve. Confronting Tom was just the start. Evelyn wasn't done, and neither was I. Tom's promise to confront Evelyn felt hollow, like a band-aid on a broken bone. I stood in our living room, watching him fumble for words. His shock real, but his resolve shaky. I'd laid bare his mother's betrayal, and he was still half in denial. I couldn't wait for him to grow a spine. Evelyn was a storm, and I'd been her punching bag too long. If I was going to escape this nightmare, I had to take control now. My marriage, my dignity, my life were on the line, and I wasn't about to let her win. What would you do when the people you love fail you? I chose to fight. I spent the next day planning. Evelyn thought I'd cracked, that her hotel stunt had me cornered. She was wrong. I had the recordings, Vance's sleazy voice, her texts, enough to prove her scheme. But evidence wasn't enough. I needed to break free. I started with practical steps. I called a women's shelter I'd found online, my voice low so Tom wouldn't hear. The woman on the phone was kind, explaining how they could help with housing, legal aid, even a job. It wasn't much, but it was a lifeline. For the first time, I saw a way out. Money was the next hurdle. We had no savings, and my part-time job barely covered groceries. I rummaged through our closet, finding old jewelry, cheap rings, a necklace from my mom. I pawned them that afternoon, pocketing a couple $100. It wasn't freedom, but it was a bus ticket. Maybe a night in a motel. I hid the cash in a sock, my secret escape fund. Tom noticed me acting strange, asked what was wrong. I lied, said I was just tired. I hated deceiving him, but trust was gone. He'd failed me too many times. Evelyn didn't let up. She called that night, her voice icy. You ran from the hotel? That was stupid. I gripped the phone, heart racing, but I didn't flinch. I'm done. Evelyn, you're not getting away with this. She laughed, sharp and mean. You think you can stop me, Tom? Needs me, not you. That was her mistake, underestimating me. I told her I had proof, that I'd go to the police. She went quiet, then hung up. I knew she wasn't scared off, but I'd rattled her. It bought me time. I packed a small bag, clothes, my phone, the pawn money. The shelter had a spot for me, but I had to move fast. Tom was out, probably at the bar again, and I couldn't wait for his talk with Evelyn. I wrote him a note. I'm leaving. Your mother tried to destroy me. Figure out who you're loyal to. It hurt, but I left it on the counter and walked out. The night air was cold, my steps heavy, but each one felt lighter than the last. I was done being a victim. The shelter was a cramped building downtown, but it was safe. The staff gave me a bed, a hot meal, and a lawyer's number. I cried myself to sleep, not for Tom, but for the life I'd lost. What would you do? Walking away from everything you know. I was scared, but I was free. Evelyn's hold was slipping, and I wasn't looking back. She'd pushed me too far. And now I was ready to fight, not just for survival, but for justice. The shelter's thin mattress creaked under me, but for the first time in months, I slept without fear. Evelyn's shadow still loomed, but I'd taken back my power. Leaving Tom and that house was like shedding a skin that never fit. I wasn't free yet, not fully, but I was building something new, piece by piece. The lawyer from the shelter, Miss Carter, became my anchor. She listened to my story, her face hardening as I played the recordings. This is coercion, maybe trafficking. She said, we can build a case. Those words lit a fire in me. Evelyn wasn't untouchable, and I was done running. Ms. Carter helped me file a police report. I handed over everything: texts, voicemails, the hotel audio. The officer, a tired-looking woman, didn't sugarcoat it. These cases are tough, she said, but your evidence is strong. They questioned Evelyn, and I heard she denied everything, spinning some tale about me misunderstanding her. But Vance cracked under pressure, admitting he'd paid Evelyn for services. The police didn't arrest her, yet more investigation. They said, but the no-contact order, Miss Carter pushed through, kept her away. For now, I was safe. Tom was harder to face. He showed up at the shelter a week later, eyes bloodshot, begging to talk. I met him in the common room, arms crossed, heart guarded. I didn't know. He said, voice breaking. I should have stopped her. I wanted to believe him, but his apologies felt like too little, too late. You let her run our lives? I said, you chose her over me. He didn't argue, just nodded, tears falling. I told him I needed space, maybe forever. Walking away from him hurt, But staying would have hurt more. I got a job at a coffee shop, small but steady, and started therapy through the shelter. Each session peeled back layers of guilt and shame Evelyn had piled on. I wasn't her pawn, and I wasn't Tom's failure. I was me stronger than I'd ever known. I started writing too, journaling my story. Not for pity, but for clarity. What would you do? Rebuilding from nothing, I found power in small victories, a paycheck, a laugh with a coworker, a night without nightmares. Evelyn's case is still pending. But I'm not waiting for justice to live. I moved into a tiny apartment, just a bed and a table. But it's mine. I'm learning who I am without her voice in my head, without Tom's shadow. This started with a question. What would you do if your mother-in-law tried to break you? I fought back, not with fists, but with courage. I'm still healing, still angry, but I'm free. Share your thoughts. What would you have done? Let's keep this conversation going. My story began with a shocking betrayal. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, demanded I prostitute myself to save my husband, Tom's failing business. As the daughter-in-law, I navigated a crumbling marriage and financial despair, blindsided by her manipulative scheme. She exploited my loyalty, pushing me toward a dangerous encounter with a client, Robert Vance. I resisted in secret, gathering evidence recordings, texts to protect myself. Confronting Tom revealed his weakness under Evelyn's control, fracturing our bond. I escaped to a shelter, found legal help, and built a case against her. With a no-contact order in place and a new job, I'm reclaiming my life. Tom's apologies couldn't mend what broke, and Evelyn faces justice. This journey taught me resilience and self-worth, turning pain into power.